So last summer I bought my drone and I went out to the beach area with my friend Lucas. I got a bunch of pretty shots and also get to know the seagulls and how much they hate drones. And my friend Lucas also brought his camera. He's more of a photographer. I really like one of the pictures he took, and I then converted that picture into an Instagram loop and then posted it and moved on to the next thing I was working on. Fast forward a year and I was scrolling through my Instagram and I found that loop and I thought, man, this was a cool idea. I think I can take it to the next level. And this time I wanted to bring you guys along with me just to show the process and what's behind creating something like this. Don't see this as a tutorial, it's more a journal, a diary behind recreating something like this. The techniques to achieve it, but also the trial and error that goes behind it that you don't get to see when you just see the finished product. As you may guess, I created this parallax effect in After Effects using different layers at different depths using a virtual camera. There are clear shapes that work very well in this effect. All the cameras have a circular shape, our eyes also have it, so it ties very well together and it's very important to keep it that way for the effect to work. Although it would be ideal to use green screen, I didn't use it. I just make sure to grab some clean plates of the backgrounds to make my life easier later on while editing. That means that we'll have to rotoscope the foreground and subject elements. This is not as bad as it sounds because we are taking the pictures in the same environment, so things should line up. So it's not that bad, don't worry. That's pretty much it for pre-production. Now we just need to grab a friend, go outside, find a nice location and take some pictures. I knew that if I went to the beach area I would find pretty cool locations, and that's what happened. We found this little dome of trees where the light of the sun could shine through the little gaps in the trees. It didn't look very nice there, but I knew that it would look very nice on camera because I was planning to shoot wide aperture. At that point it was just a bunch of trial and error until I found something that I enjoyed visually. I was only concerned with two things. One, that the lens of the camera I was holding was more or less at the center of the frame, and also that the two cameras, they were more or less aligned, so that also made sense when I'm zooming in and out in terms of perspective. I eventually liked one where I was holding the camera and then we took the background shot and that was it. I thought I was done. Then I had the idea to make it seem like the camera is floating above my hand. So we found the composition and then we took 3 pictures: the background, the subject, me, and then just the camera in the same environment. Now I ended up using the floating camera effect in the final effect, and that's because it's super difficult to separate elements that is attached to the subject. Just like the drone shot of last year, the drone is in front of me and I'm behind it. We are not connected in any way, so it's easy to make that parallax effect. Not so easy if you are holding a camera. That's also the reason why I scrapped the idea of holding the gimbal. There I'm always connected to the camera and the camera is connected to me, so it's super hard to separate everything in between. And then we move inside to take the picture of me doing the little thing. Here I have more control over everything, so I have all the lights set up the way I want. Here we went a little bit wider because we had less space inside, so we went with a 50mm and we took the pictures of me doing this and then me just not doing anything, and then of the background, and that was pretty much it for all the pictures. Now editing. So now we have a bunch of pictures and now we need to rotoscope them. I would normally do this in After Effects, but because it's just pictures, I will do it in Photoshop. I really like the tools there for masking, and also the smudge tool. It's very helpful for this one. So I did everything there, all the separations, all the layers we needed and discussed it before. Now the picture of the drone, I will be using the one that I used last year. There I don't have any backplates. I need to make up what's behind the drone. This is just another technique that you can use if you didn't take the back plates, or if you just had this idea while editing and you need a way to create that parallax effect. So we're going to generate files out of Photoshop with transparency into After Effects. We're going to turn those layers into 3D layers, create a virtual camera, and then separate them in 3D space. Now we are going to find ways to transition between the effects and also establish a few things so that the effects can flow into the other smoothly. I say flow into each other because each setup is its own After Effects file. I decided to do it like this in separate files just to try out this different workflow, and because of this I had to keep a couple things constant so that things would flow together when put together. So for each setup I created 5 seconds of animation, with the last 1.5 seconds to be the transition in between setups. The camera translation also had to be the same for all the setups, and I kept it at 500 pixels per second. I wanted to create something unique on each setup, and I think it's nice if we go through each one and see what's unique about it. So the effect starts with my face, my eye, my hands, nothing fancy happening here just yet. I gave it some rotation to my hands just to keep it more interesting. Because we have lights shining into the lens, we should see some light wrapping around my hands, and I give it that digitally using some blurs, specifically the radial fast blur, to get this effect, and also used a wiggle expression on the intensity of the effect so that it looks like the lights are flickering. We can actually see a bit of an issue here. If you look at my shoulders here, this should be my shoulder, should be attached to my neck area, but it's clearly just floating because of course we are working with 2D layers, and I knew at this point I would be going into the other setup. You see it for probably like 1 or 2 frames, so who cares. I really like how the light wrap works here. It looks pretty cool and super simple effects. So next one. So here I went with this like mysterious magical environment with all the particles. These were done in Trapcode Particular, very cool plugin. Oh no, actually I didn't use the Trapcode Particular. I did use the CC Particle Worlds. So actually, yeah, that's even better because I didn't use any plugins on this one. I did do some cheating here. So on my face, I was wearing the hat. I think on Photoshop I made it a little bit darker here. So I thought it would look cool. I think it's super cool to work with images because of that. You have a little bit more freedom on how you manipulate all the images. Let's go to the next one. I'm really happy with this one. Looks sick. So this time I wanted to redo the effect I did a year ago, and I had a couple things that I wanted to improve upon, especially the propellers. I wanted to avoid green screen because I wanted the propeller to move at a constant rate and kind of slow. So CGI seemed at the time the better answer, but I kept looking at my drone and the propellers and they were there. So I just went for it. I rearranged my whole office and I set up the lights to simulate the sun because this was at sunset. I set up the camera and the low angle to capture the same perspective as this shot. And I got some fishing string and I wrapped it around the rotor of the motor and tried my best to slowly pull it so that the propeller would rotate more or less constantly. So I usually stay away from green screens because I don't have the best camera just yet, so the codec that I'm using is not the best for keying anything, but I think it turned out okay. I animated the drone to make it seem like it's actually flying, and I added some nice lens flares to these lights here because it looks cool, that's it. And that's it for this shot. It's nice to know that I can use my ADD to pull some nice keys out of green screens. I usually don't use this in my workflow, but it's nice to know that I can more or less get away with it. I was really set in my mind to use full CGI. I'm really glad I didn't, but I did use it a lot on the next effect. stay hydrated. So I didn't mention this setup just yet on purpose because it was actually not planned. This was Luca's idea that will be cool for me to transition out of a screen to represent the editing portion of this loop of creativity. It was a lot of work. I tend to go overboard with CGI because it's something that I'm learning and it's something that I really find very interesting to get all the details. The point was to more or less recreate my desk in 3D, although it looks much cooler here actually. I wish I had a desk like this. We have one of my renders framed here, just like I have here in the office. We have the Rubik's Cube that I love doing. I also find it very interesting to add little details like these papers, and these are papers that I just scanned, so I have them here actually. I just scan them and I turn them into images and import them into Blender, and just having fun with everything. And of course we have all the little transitions in between the setups. Now here I use a lot of optical compensations, light sweeps, CC lens, and chromatic aberration to help transition in between these plates and also really hide all the seams. The next part of the edit is actually something that I really value a lot, and I think it really is one of the most important things about just video in general, which is the sound design. This is one of the issues that I see in a lot of the videos I see out there. Sound design, especially here in effects, really bring everything together and really make it come alive. And that's basically how I did this effect. Now, if you are still watching this video, I'm sure you are subscribed. If you're not, please do so, and also like the video, really helps the channel to grow. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. My name is Diogo, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.